All right, we'll call a Finance Committee meeting to order. Everybody have a chance to take a look at the minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Approved claims in the amount of $2,610,822.08.
Of this, 1.7 million is our debt payments.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Just, you got Joyce on there?
Yep, Joyce is on. Joyce, can you hear us?
Yes, I can, thanks.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I just didn't hear you voting, Joyce.
No, I just got here.
Okay. Discussion and possible action approving contract with Cedar Corporation for the City of Hudson zoning code update.
Good evening, Finance Committee. This is kind of a project that's been a long way in the making. Obviously, the last 2 years we spent redoing the comprehensive plan. One of the main recommendations of that process was to update our zoning code, which has not been updated since about 1993, minus some piecemeal updates here and there as we've gone through it. So with this, the RFP review committee met a few times, interviewed 2 different firms, and have selected Cedar Corp to do the project for just under $100,000 to be paid through the 2023 notes, the Plan 2023 notes. So with that, both the committee and staff recommend approval.
Is that a typical price for that?
Yeah, that was, I mean, we had some that were more expensive, some that were not a significant amount less, but it's it's a big piece of code. I mean, this is zoning for the entire city, so, yep.
It will bend eventually.
Move to approve.
It's pretty bad.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Between.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion and possible action on city administrator replacement process.
So included some information in the menu, in the agenda packet, and then with my memo, a couple attachments. So, just quickly as my first part of this, I can tell you this was a very, as I said in my email to the council, very difficult decision. It's still not one that we're not even 100% sure, sure of, sort of thing, but for a number of reasons, it made sense, and so I just want you to know it was not easy. The city has just so many positive things going. We have a great set of elected officials. We have obviously great staff, things like that. So it was a very hard decision. So I wanted to start with that. So with that, for the replacement, I did include 3 proposals from search consultants. One, PAA, who we've used before, and then I had 2 others submit that have done a number of recent placements, more on the Minnesota side, but still, in our general area. So I wanted to give the Finance Committee that those options at least. Obviously, as you can see, PAA, the one that did my search, is the most cost effective by far. I think a big part of that obviously is what they say in their cover letters. They did this, when they hired me, when I thought I was leaving about 1.5 years ago. They also started that process, so they have given us, I think when my process was done, it was much closer to the other 2 proposals that are included, but they've given us a significant discount because they have, like I said, done a lot of work recently and things like that. So with that, I wanted to give the council the options. Obviously, I thought the PAA process went well. I'm biased because they were part of the part that where I got recruited, but I wanted to give you the options to consider with that. So I think that's our first conversation point is who you want to move forward with on the consultant side.
I would be okay using PAA as well again. I think they did a heck of a job. The engagement piece was kind of important, not only just to meet you, but actually to meet our fellow council members as well. I think Joyce and I sat at a couple tables together during that, and that's the first time we really talked at that point. Well, before that too as well, but I think it's a good process. I think they did a good job. So I'd be in favor of PAA, and I'll throw that motion out there.
I'll second that. They did a good job, and the price difference is significant enough that I don't see a reason to consider the others, since we know that PAA will do a good job again.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. I echo that. I think that, I do appreciate you throwing in a couple more, so that we could look at them, just kind of refresh our memories. But PAA gave us Aaron, and, they did a great job, I thought, and I thought the process was really good, so I'm very much in favor of them. So, anybody else? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
So then the second part of this conversation, as you can see from all the proposals, they're all anticipating probably a 4-month process. And I have to say that I did talk to each of the kind of lead consultants for all of these, just because they all called to just get more details, want to make sure the proposals are right. I hate to say this, but they all said the same thing, that it's a tough market right now. Almost all of them actually talked about recent ones they've done where they're pretty much either having to extend time, do a re-advertisement, things like that. They're not, unfortunately, getting often. There's no guarantee. I'm hoping that, there's good candidates that come in. But there's a lot of the places that end up having to restart their process or, delay it for a little while and then restart it to see if the market's changed a little bit, things like that. So they all think that the 4 months is very reasonable time frame expectation, but they also want to stress that there is a potential that it could stretch even a couple months more depending on the applicants received, and that's obviously going to be a whole council discussion at that time when you start reviewing candidates and things, how you feel about it. So with all that, like I said, this was a very hard decision for us and for me to make, especially personally. But I'm not going to another position, so it's not like I have to start another position November 1, things like that. So I did want to offer that I would like to continue on, albeit it would be remotely after the first part of November probably. To continue through, help to get us through the end of, at least, the budget process, CIP process, those sort of things. But to be honest, I'm happy to continue through until you have somebody selected and started. I know it's a little unique, but we proved over, about 6 months ago that it does work, and that we can be successful that way. Clearly I've talked to the department heads about it, and I wanted them to express, not to me, but to you, if they had concerns with that. But I think that we do have a lot going on, just besides, as we talked about, the budget, CIP, and things like that. There's so many things happening, within the city. As you all know, we have a very lean staff. I think that's a testament to the council and to the city about what we've done as far as financially with our budgets and things like that. But at the same time, it can cause things to get pushed by the wayside. So I want to offer that up to the finance committee, that I am more than willing to do it. And honestly, I don't know, if you're good with it, I don't think you'll see a change. You know what I mean? Things will continue to move as they are. So I want to put that out there, and that's up to the finance committee to decide what they want to do.
If you elicited comments from department heads, I have not received any comments of whether they objected to you staying on or not. And to me, if that's the case, then I don't have a problem continuing your service. I think there's a lot of challenges moving ahead of us that we kind of need some guidance with, including filling this position as well, and budget, like you said, and election. There's a lot of stuff.
Well, given Mike Johnson's workload, I agree that it would be smart to keep Aaron on, and also ask Aaron to start the onboarding procedure with the new administrator as well. So probably have a little bit of overlap with the new administrator. So I'll make the motion that we retain Aaron until we've finished the process and allow him to work remotely during this process.
I'll second.
You got a motion and a second? Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate that support, because I do want to continue to help. I really do. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
that. Good. All right. That's all I got for that one.
Okay. Discussion possible action on 2023 budget and levy.
So I apologize. because I was out last week, I would have had this done last week. It would have been in your packet. But I have to be honest, trying to update the budget in our software on a screen this size, I just can't do it. It's really hard to do, and there's so many numbers. So unfortunately, it got delayed till I got back so I could look at it, print it out, big screen, have Allison walk me through it and all that stuff. So, but with all that, so I did send it out to the Finance Committee and to the rest of the council members as well this morning, so hopefully everybody has a chance to look at it. Clearly, we're not voting on anything tonight. Our goal would be is that we have the Finance discuss it tonight. We'll bring it back to next Finance Committee for any finalization, and then we'll have the budget hearing at the first November council meeting so then we'll have full council input at that meeting, and then we'll hopefully do adoption at that first November meeting. To touch on the highlights, obviously the one thing that we focus on is our property tax levy for operations. Those are our governmental functions, those sort of things, everything that we do to operate with. I tried to highlight a few kind of key points with it, but the bottom line is this: we're at a 3.98% levy increase for operations. That includes, as I talked about, a 4% cost of living adjustment for our pay scales. It includes one position change, basically, which is moving a part-time front desk position back to a full-time position, which it had been in before, but we did during COVID to save money, not backfill that position, replaced it with a part-time, things like that. But now that we're kind of back fully operational again and things, that position does need to go back to full-time. And then, of course, the big number always usually, all of our big numbers are usually personnel related. So the other big personnel related number is a 8.5% health insurance cost increase. I can say that over the last 3 years, I think we've had like 0, 0, and a 5 maybe, or less than 3, 2.
Yeah.
It's been unbelievably low. So we expect that at some point that we're going to have a catch up. 8.5% honestly isn't bad. Most of the cities in our area that I've talked to are well into the double digits, some into the 20s and 30%. So it's a very reasonable increase. Obviously the city share is one thing, but the employees also have to shoulder their share increase of that 8.5% as well. So with all those things said, also take into account the fact, as we all know, we have some of the largest inflationary increases that we've ever seen in a budgeting process. So that's our utilities, that's our fuel, that's our equipment purchases. All those things are, as we all know, going up quick. And I don't know what the answer is going to be and when that's going to turn around, but those are real things that we have to all deal with as we look at the budget and putting that together for the city and the operation. So I think with all that, our department heads did an amazing job. We came in at obviously a higher increase, almost about a 13% increase when we got our initial information from the department heads, then sat down with our department heads and we all worked together to come up with 4%. Obviously it's a big difference from what initially was proposed, so we had a lot of sharing of the pain among the departments to get to where we could, I think, present to the Finance Committee first a reasonable levy increase based on everything that's going on out there right now, with the economy and costs and things like that. And so with that, the one thing I wanted to stress too is that while it's a 4% property tax levy increase for operations, we did have 2% new net growth. So we're not talking value growth, we're not talking anything like that, we're talking actual new construction growth. So when you take that into account, really what we're looking at is a 2% actual levy increase. And so, just for example with that, if we were at levy limits, which we are not, again, as I talked about before, past city councils, this city council staff have worked very hard. Well, we're one of the fastest growing cities in the state. We have amazing value growth. Our council has always taken a very hard line really on our levy increases. And so with that, we are one of the few cities in the area, in probably the state, that we're not at levy limits. We still have capacity there, but if we were, we could only increase our levy by 2.1% because that's what our net new growth is. We're not there, so that's good for us, but I think it's a good way to show that even though it says 4%, really the direct impact is only going to be 2% on an actual taxpayer. So for our levy hearing and full council discussion in November, we will have a sheet that shows if you have a $400,000, $500,000, whatever $1,000 value property, what that tax increase will be. it'll be very minimal. It just is. I mean, 2% is not a very big number. And honestly, it's a very surprising number to be able to do now with everything that's happening. I think it's a very big testament to our department heads and how they were able to work with me to get that number to something like that. One thing to add on to all this is that we just, if you remember, did a total city reevaluation 2 years ago. And we have to do that because there's the process with Wisconsin state, with taxes, where you have equalized value versus your assessed value. And the equalized value and the assessed value should be as close to matched as possible. We were 20% off. Our actual assessed value was coming in 20% under what the state said our value should be. So we did that process, got them back to normal. We had a 20% change again this year. It's the largest one-year change that our assessor has ever seen, and obviously our assessor doesn't just work with the city of Hudson, he works with a number of communities. It's the largest one-year change he's ever seen in value. Our values have gone through the roof. Anyone that's tried to buy a house here knows that. So just understand, property taxpayers will have to understand that their values, there's going to be this on an odd skew again. We're not doing a full reevaluation again, but by statute, we are going to have to do another one next year now because our values change so much. So there's going to be another reevaluation. So when you get your property tax statements and you look, you'll see that assessed value or of your home. 99% of the time, you're not going to sell your house for that property, especially now. So we're going to have to kind of bring that in line to what the reality is again. So we're continuing to see strong growth, especially strong, a pretty amazing actual value growth. Now, how long will that last? Who knows? I think everybody's talking about you're going to see values start to probably come back down in the line, but I don't think you're going to see values drop. You're just going to see the increases moderate to something more realistic, like 2%, 3%, maybe even 5% value increases, not 20. So we've got a lot of those things going on as well, which just shows that Hudson remains a very desirable community to live in, to develop in, to build in, and like I said, I think a lot of that comes back to the staff that we have and the services that we can provide, as well as the council that has done an amazing job over the years in keeping our taxes at a place where people feel comfortable buying these houses at these values, because their taxes are very reasonable for the value of home and property that they may have. So with all that, I know it was a lot to look at in a day, which is why we're not asking for any recommendation for approval tonight. We'll do that next finance committee meeting. But if you have any questions about the budget, any changes, anything like that, this is kind of what we're looking for.
I have a couple questions, and thank you to the department heads and the staff for going through everything. At the previous meeting, I alluded to a wage survey for public.
Yep.
Is that included into this?
So for next year's budget, we do have it factored in, although we're not going to pay for it out of property taxes. We have what we call our health insurance fund, where we have a unique plan where during years that we spend less than we put in, we actually get a refund, which is pretty unheard of, but we've had this plan forever and we're sticking with it, obviously, for a lot of good reasons. So we have some funds in that to pay for that. So we will be doing that wage study next year. Yes.
Okay. And then, a couple things as our general citizens in Hudson, we all have to tighten our belts because of inflation on every utility, as you had pointed out. Can we lock in on our gas prices? Can we set up some budgetary plans for electric and utilities and all the following?
So, we're not really able to set our prices at all, but all we can do is monitor closely. So all the department has recognized that as these prices fluctuate, we have to watch them. So we're trying to be more efficient. So that's one of the things that we're actually looking at is doing more energy efficiency projects in our buildings, replace outdated lighting with LED, things like that. Looking at all of our, our HVAC systems in all of our buildings and our contracts that we have with those. How can we make sure that they're optimized, they're running most effectively, things like that. So that's what we're doing. We're also watching our budgets, obviously, with it. If we see prices go up, we have to reevaluate what we're doing. Can we keep doing this? We have to cut that back for a while, that sort of thing. But we're not able to lock in a price, unfortunately.
Don't we typically lock in on our gas buy, right?
What's that?
The
No.
cap. That's not?
Nope.
Are you talking fuel?
Oh,
Yeah,
you mean
fuel.
fuel? Okay, sorry.
Which is it's a set amount over thing. So it still will
Yes.
fluctuate,
Okay.
but it's capped at how much of an increase it's on.
Sorry, I was thinking natural gas.
Well, I was getting to both of that
Okay.
as well, too.
So yes, for our fuel, we do go out for bids for our like fleet fuel, that sort of thing. So like you said, it can fluctuate, but it is within a range at least. So we have some certainty with that at least, yes.
I've got a couple of questions. So you said that there's been a 2% increase in the value due to building. Is that excluding the tax increment district?
Yep, so that wouldn't include anything that's in a TID district or anything like that. It's the 2.1% of the net new construction that would actually impact like what a tax levy amount would be to our base sort of thing. Yep.
And how much do we have in our undesignated fund at this time?
So unfortunately, our audit's been dragging a little bit. We usually like to have the audit presented to you before we do the budget, but we're hoping that next meeting we'll have the audit. But at this point, we're still, I think, holding at about the 45 to 48%. Is that about right?
Sounds about right.
Yep. So I think our general fund reserves, undesignated, are still in that 45 to 48% range, which is, you know, a really solid financial position for the city to be in.
And approximately how much? I mean, how many million?
Just about $1 million or under in that undesignated?
Well, I'm just saying overall general fund
Oh, just
reserves.
saying overall.
So it'd be 5 something, probably around $5 million in our undesignated general fund reserves, right in that area.
Okay.
You're supposed to say 1 million when you say that, so we don't know. So we don't spend it.
And I'm so used to the undesignated capital, and that's where my head went.
Yeah, you know, so the big part of that to remember with our you know, general fund reserves, undesignated means that that's money that we have available in case of emergencies, things that we're not. It also is good to have that strong reserve because when we do go out for bonding, which we will be doing next year, 2023 is the start of our next 2-year bonding cycle. Every 2 years we do our bonding. It really helps our rates in our bond rating to have that strong general fund reserve.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
All right, we good?
So next meeting, we'll talk about this again, hopefully get a recommendation to approve to the council. And then the next big thing for Finance Committee is going to be the capital improvement plan. We'll have that rolling out at the first November meeting to the Finance Committee. And that, as I mentioned in my email, is going to be an eye-opener for the council and the Finance Committee, because we do, as I talked about, we have 2 kind of legacy building projects that are, you know, needed. So that's our new Public Works facility and a new police station. So we've got 2 very large projects that are probably needed in the next 5 years that are going to be included in the CIP. And then as we've been talking about for a very long time, we also have a phased-in approach added to the CIP to increase our infrastructure funding, specifically street funding. So we'll be talking about all that at the first November meeting. So at that meeting, be prepared to then really start worrying about tax levy and impacts and things like that, because they're going to be big numbers. And we tried to phase them out the best we can, but we'll have that presented to the finance at that first November meeting. We're just trying to finalize a few details with it so we're ready for it, right? So.
Okay.
So which one will be planned first, the Public Works or the police station?
The Public Works facility would be our first priority building, and then we'd be looking at doing the police at the end of this 5-year capital improvement plan cycle. So closer to 2029 for the police facility.
All right, everybody good? So I don't have anything. Anybody?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.